Let's talk about the one thing that connects every single one of us, no matter who we are or where we're from. One day, our hearts will stop, our brains will shut down. So the big question, the ultimate mystery, is what really happens next?
You know, if you look at it from a purely biological standpoint, the answer seems, well, pretty straightforward. Your brain is the hardware, and your consciousness, everything that makes you you, that's the software. So when the hardware fails, the software just stops running.
But is that really it? Just a flick of a switch and then nothing? Or could there be something more? This is exactly where the hard certainty of science crashes into the frontier of human experience. And let me tell you, the answers are anything but simple.
Okay, so to really get into this mystery, we've got to start with the mechanics. Let's begin with what science knows for sure about the process of, well, shutting down.
This timeline is pretty clear-cut, right? Within seconds of the heart stopping, the brain gets starved of oxygen and blood, and consciousness as we know it, poof, it's gone. A few minutes later, that damage starts to become permanent. This is supposed to be the biological point of no return, or so we thought.
And this, right here, is where the scientific map just goes blank. Because you see, thousands of people have been brought back from this very threshold, and some of them return with these extraordinary stories of being aware when they should have had no awareness at all.
You've probably heard of them. They're called near-death experiences, or NDEs. And we need to be clear, these aren't just some fuzzy dreams or hallucinations. We're talking about structured, often crystal-clear experiences from people who were, for all medical purposes, clinically dead.
What's absolutely fascinating is how similar these reports are, no matter someone's culture or religion. You see the same themes over and over, moving through a tunnel toward a light, this feeling of incredible peace, and sometimes, the most baffling part of all, actually leaving their body and watching their own resuscitation from above. Which brings us to one of the most famous cases in medical history. So back in 1991, a musician named Pam Reynolds needed this incredibly risky brain surgery. The doctors had to do something drastic. They cooled her body down, stopped her heart, and drained all the blood from her head. Her brain waves went completely flat. By every single medical definition, she was gone. And yet, Pam later reported watching her own operation from above. She described the surgical saw they used, which she said looked like an electric toothbrush, even though her eyes were taped shut. She recalled specific conversations the doctors had, things that happened in the room, details that the medical staff later confirmed were 100% accurate. So this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? How on earth could a person with a flatlined EEG and no blood in their brain have a lucid, verifiable experience? This is the central problem, the huge challenge that these experiences pose to our standard biological model of death.
Naturally, scientists have been digging for an answer inside the brain itself. I mean, if consciousness is a product of the brain, then these experiences must be too, right? So let's look at the leading theories.
So it turns out the brain doesn't just fade to black. It's actually the opposite. Recent studies found that in the moments right around death, the brain can just explode with this burst of super-organized electrical activity. Sometimes it's even more coherent than when we're awake. This surge includes gamma waves, which are linked to high-level thinking. So one idea is that an NDE is basically the brain's last big, vivid fireworks show as the lights go out.
Then there's the brain chemistry angle. This is also pretty interesting. Researchers compared thousands of reports of altered states, and they found that the drug ketamine can produce experiences that are remarkably similar to NDEs. This suggests that maybe our own brain releases a cocktail of chemicals at the moment of death that creates all these profound feelings.
Now, these are both really compelling ideas. They make a lot of sense. But, and this is a big but, they slam right into a wall with cases like Pam Reynolds. A burst of brain activity or a flood of chemicals might explain the internal feelings, the peace or the light, but it just doesn't explain how someone can observe and recall real, verifiable events happening outside their body while their brain is completely offline. The mystery is still there.
And just when you thought it couldn't get any more complicated, it does. Because it turns out that what people actually see in these experiences isn't universal. Our own cultural background seems to act as a powerful filter for what we experience.
There was this fascinating study that compared NDEs in Japan and the West, and the differences are pretty stark. In the West, that bright light is often seen as a personal being, an angel, God, you name it. In Japan, it's usually just a light, not a person. Westerners might see a city of light, while Japanese experiencers often describe a beautiful flower garden. And the life review, which is a huge feature in the West, is almost totally missing in Japan. It's like our brain just uses the language and symbols it already knows to try and make sense of the indescribable.
So when you put all of this together, the cultural filter, the mystery of verifiable out-of-body experiences, it forces us to ask a much, much bigger question, a really fundamental question about what consciousness even is.
And this is really the core of the debate. The standard scientific view, materialism, says the brain is a generator. It creates consciousness. So when the generator breaks, the lights go out. End of story. But the other view, non-physicalism, suggests something totally different, that maybe the brain isn't the creator at all. Maybe it's more like an antenna or a receiver, just tuning into a consciousness that already exists out there.
I love this analogy because it makes it so clear. Think about a TV. If you smash it, the picture gets all weird and distorted, right? But you don't assume the TV box itself creates the TV show. Of course not. The broadcast signal exists on its own. In the same way, maybe brain damage messes with our experience of consciousness, but that doesn't prove the brain is the source. It could just mean the receiver is broken.
And look, this isn't just philosophy. There are serious scientists exploring these frameworks. They're asking these massive questions, like what if consciousness is a fundamental property of the universe, just like space or time? What if it's information that's somehow preserved in the quantum realm? I mean, these ideas are way out there on the cutting edge of science, and they're pushing the boundaries of everything we thought we knew.
So where does that leave us? We're right back at the heart of this huge mystery. On one hand, the data shows us a clear biological shutdown. But on the other, we have these profound reports of awareness when there should be absolute silence. For now, the question of what truly happens after we die is still a wide open one, leaving us all to wonder, is the end of the brain really the end of the story?